Hello everyone, and welcome to History of the Ancient World. Today we're taking a trip back in time, thousands of years, to walk the very streets of the world's first great cities. Forget what you think you know from movies. We're going to dive deep into what it was really like to live, work, and survive in places like Rome, Athens, and Babylon. What did the air smell like? What sounds would you hear from your window? What did people do for fun? These bustling metropolises were the hearts of ancient civilizations, centers of power, culture, and incredible innovation, but they were also crowded, noisy, and sometimes dangerous places. From the grandest temples to the humblest alleyways, we're about to uncover the daily realities for the millions who call these ancient cities home. So grab your virtual sandals and let's begin our journey. First stop, the magnificent city of Rome around the 2nd century AD, during the height of its power. Imagine a city of over 1 million people, the largest the world had ever seen. The first thing you'd notice is the noise. The constant rumble of cartwheels on stone, the shouts of vendors selling everything from fresh bread to exotic spices, the chatter of a dozen different languages in the crowded forums. The air itself would be a mix of smells, incense from the temples, sizzling food from the street-side thermopolia, the Roman equivalent of fast food joints, and, let's be honest, the less pleasant smell of a city without modern sanitation. Life for a Roman citizen varied dramatically depending on their wealth. The rich, the patricians, lived in luxurious homes called a domus, often built around a beautiful open courtyard, an atrium. They had running water, private baths, and walls decorated with stunning frescoes. The days might involve conducting business in the morning, enjoying a long lunch, and then heading to the public baths, the thermae, not just to get clean, but to socialize, exercise, and network. In the evening, they'd host lavish dinner parties with multiple courses and entertainment. But for the vast majority of Romans, the plebeians, life was very different. They were crammed into multi-story apartment buildings called insulae. These were often poorly built, prone to collapse or fire, and lacked basic amenities. Families would live in a single, small, dark room. Most people didn't have kitchens, so they relied on street vendors for their meals. The Roman government knew it had to keep this massive population happy, or at least distracted, to prevent unrest. Their solution was the famous bread and circuses. They provided a grain dole to feed the poor and spectacular public entertainment at venues like the Colosseum and the Circus Maximus. Imagine tens of thousands of people roaring as gladiators fought or chariots thundered around the track. This was the pulse of Roman city life. Now let's travel further back in time and east in geography to the city of Athens in the 5th century BC, its golden age. Athens was much smaller than Imperial Rome, with a population of perhaps 250,000, including citizens, foreigners, and enslaved people. While Rome was an empire of engineers and administrators, Athens was a city of thinkers, artists, and democrats. The heart of Athenian life was the agora. This wasn't just a marketplace, it was the center of everything. Here, you'd find merchants hawking their wares next to philosophers like Socrates, engaging young men in deep conversation. You'd see politicians debating, citizens voting, and friends simply catching up. The agora was the vibrant, beating heart of Athenian democracy. An Athenian citizen's day often started early. He, and it was almost always a he in public life, would head to the agora for business or politics. The afternoons might be spent at the gymnasium, a place for physical exercise and intellectual discussion. Unlike the grand Roman baths, Athenian homes were typically modest, even for the wealthy. They valued public spaces more than private luxury. The Acropolis, towering over the city, was the sacred center, home to the Parthenon. It wasn't just a religious site, it was a symbol of Athenian power, pride, and devotion to their patron goddess, Athena. Life for women, however, was much more restricted. Respectable women were expected to stay within the home, managing the household and raising children, rarely seen in the public sphere of the agora. Life in Athens was deeply connected to the sea. The port of Piraeus was a short walk from the city walls, bustling with ships from across the Mediterranean, bringing in goods and new ideas. This connection to the wider world made Athens a cosmopolitan hub, but also exposed it to dangers, including the devastating plague that struck during the Peloponnesian War, a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities of ancient urban living. Finally, let's journey to one of the most legendary cities of all, Babylon, in Mesopotamia around the 6th century BC, under the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar II. Babylon was an architectural marvel. Imagine entering through the colossal Ishtar Gate, covered in brilliant blue-glazed bricks and reliefs of dragons and bulls. The city was dominated by its massive ziggurat, a stepped pyramid temple dedicated to the god Marduk, which some scholars believe was the inspiration for the biblical Tower of Babel. And of course there were the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a supposed feat of engineering that brought a lush, terraced mountain of greenery into the heart of the arid landscape. Daily life in Babylon was structured around religion and the rule of the king. The priests who ran the temples were powerful figures, not just spiritually, but economically. They controlled vast tracts of land and managed large workshops. Scribes were essential, using cuneiform script on clay tablets to record everything from laws and royal decrees to grain receipts and astronomical observations. The city was a major commercial center, located on key trade routes. Caravans arrived with goods from as far away as India and Egypt. You'd find a complex society of artisans, merchants, soldiers, and farmers who lived in the surrounding countryside, but depended on the city. Like in Rome and Athens, most ordinary people lived in simple mud brick houses packed along narrow, winding streets. Their lives were tied to the agricultural seasons, the religious festivals, and the demands of the state. So what can we learn from these snapshots of ancient urban life? We see that while the details differed, the fundamental challenges and attractions of city living have remained surprisingly constant. Cities were, and still are, magnets for opportunity, centers of culture and innovation. But they also struggled with overcrowding, sanitation, social inequality, and the risk of disease. The Romans with their aqueducts and bread dole, the Athenians with their public agora, and the Babylonians with their grand, state-sponsored building projects were all trying to solve the complex puzzle of how to make a city work. By walking these ancient streets, we gain a deeper appreciation for the foundations of our own urban world. They show us that for thousands of years, humans have been drawn together, striving to build something greater than themselves. One brick, one market, one idea at a time. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the great cities of the ancient world. What city would you want to visit if you could travel back in time? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to History of the Ancient World for more deep dives into our incredible past. We'll see you in the next one.